An interesting question I've been asked a few times is what to do about lyrics that sound overwrought, or seen another way, how do I write lyrics that don't sound overwrought? So in this video, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. The first reason your lyrics may sound overwrought is they simply just require a dictionary for someone to understand. Or going even further, they actually aren't really understandable at all because maybe you went so far with the symbolism and staying so vague that nobody would ever have any idea what the lyrics are trying to say at all. And really, I think this most often comes from a misunderstanding of what makes something poetic. I think a lot of times people conflate poetic with big words and convoluted, when really poetic is more about how precise we are in our language, how vivid the words are, how many images we can conjure up with as few words as possible. It's really more about efficiency with our words than anything else. If you can paint a picture with 2 words instead of with a whole page in a book, that's usually going to be something that would be more poetic. A really simple example of this is the word love versus the word adore. They're both perfectly fine words, but the word adore is a more precise, vivid word than the word love. Love could apply to a bunch of different things. You could say, I love my wife, I love my daughter, I love brownies, I love ice cream, I used to love Star Wars or love old Star Wars, whatever. And all of those things work. But I wouldn't say I adored Star Wars or I adore ice cream or brownies. I might adore my wife and my daughter, but it doesn't apply to all the different instances that I might say I love something. That's what shows you that adore is a more precise word. So poetic language actually tends to be language that conjures up an image and is more precise. So when it comes to fixing this problem, I think really it's a matter of making sure we are concentrating on the right things. Make sure that we are concentrating on our lyrics precisely and vividly communicating exactly what we want them to. That's what's going to make them poetic, and that's what's going to make them, or at least part of what will make them, good lyrics. But if we're concentrating instead on, I want to write lyrics that make me look smart, even worse, I want to write lyrics that make other people feel dumb because they don't understand them, those are all terrible reasons to write lyrics in a certain way. We shouldn't be doing that. We should want to communicate with our listener. That doesn't mean that we serve it up to them like they're 5 years old and like they're stupid and they're incapable of understanding nuance, or they're incapable of understanding any level of symbolism at all. We don't want to condescend our listeners either. We should really just say exactly what we mean, use precise language, use vivid language, use imagery that can really add to our song and give more depth to our song that really you can't have without symbolism, because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you use like 5 words to paint a picture, then theoretically you added 1,000 extra words, well, 995 extra words to your song for free because you painted an image with your words. Now I get that's not exactly how that works. Picture's worth 1,000 words is debatable, but you get my point. Another reason our lyrics might sound overwrought is that our lyrics might be obviously artificially inflated with bloat. Whenever you're sort of adding extra words and phrases that really aren't important to the song just so that your lyrics can fit the meter. And really, I think the artistic key here, which is key to almost anything we do as artists, is this weird tension that every single piece of art has the hand of the artist. You ultimately are writing the song. Nobody else is writing it. The song isn't writing itself. You are writing it. But we need to give the illusion that the song just is, and that we as the artist didn't sort of force it in certain directions. It should feel natural. The easiest comparison with this is with movies. We all know when they set up this girl in the movie as like, oh, she's brilliant, she was valedictorian, top of her class at Harvard, she has a brilliant brain, and then, just so the rest of the plot can happen, they make her all of a sudden the dumbest character imaginable. No, this doesn't make any sense. You set her up as a smart character, so then to turn around and be like, oh, until it's inconvenient to the plot for her to be smart, that's showing the hand of the artist. That's bad. It's not true to her character, and we don't want to do that with our songs either. And one of the ways that we can show the hand of the artist is if we have artificial bloat in our lyrics, where it's really obvious that we only had like 5 words to say, but we realized to fit the meter we needed more like 6 or 7 words, so we just kind of added a couple words and the wording's a little clunky. That is something we have to avoid. And really the key to avoid that is practice rewriting, because sometimes it's just the way you word it that makes it seem really obvious and artificial. Again, when it comes to the hand of the artist, it is there. So at some point, we are manipulating our lyrics to fit the meter that we already have with our melody. We are doing that. The key is to write it in such a way that it's not obvious that that's what happened. At the end of the day, it should feel like the lyrics that match with the melody would never have been any other way. It should feel natural. It should feel like they always belonged together, which very often just comes from workshopping it a little bit longer, rewording how you're saying that line, because with any given line, there's a million different ways you could say the same thing. So maybe just considering how to reword it in a more natural way, or think of maybe a symbolic way to express what you're trying to express, rewrite the sentence a bunch of different ways that all kind of means the same thing until you find one that fits with the meter more naturally. There's a bunch of different ways to address this, but really we have to deal with that. One of those central tensions of really, I think, all art, which is, of course, the hand of the artist makes all of the decisions in art, but we need to make sure it isn't shown. Another reason that our lyrics might sound overwrought is, again, we were aiming at the wrong target. If we were trying to be emotional with our lyrics instead of trying to be radically honest with our lyrics. Because at least a trend that I've seen where I find myself rolling my eyes at lyrics or just not believing lyrics very often comes from this really overwrought, obviously emotionally manipulative place where the way things are being expressed is just like, that's not real. You're just picking words to intentionally try to manipulate people. And that just comes across as gross and honestly kind of condescending, because it kind of implies that we're so dumb that we're gonna fall for it. Which I get that a lot of people, like different styles of music and blah, blah, blah. And any song that I picked on in this category would of course tick somebody off, because they'd be like, no, it's so real. But there are so many songs that you could almost tell, like, okay, you're just trying to manipulate. You're not being honest about what really happened. You're not being honest about how it actually feels to be in that position. You're just trying to pick the most overdone, overwrought, big emotions possible. For whatever reason, the song that keeps coming to mind for me is Grenade by Bruno Mars, which I know half of you are going to be ticked about this, but like, if you look at the lyrics to that song, it's just overdone and ridiculous. Like, really? And I think the irony of this is the best way to actually get a genuine emotional response from people is to be radically honest, not to try to emotionally manipulate them with your wording. Very often the songs that really touch people are ones that are trying to be honest. They are super, super intimate songs, not songs that are trying to be overly emotional and just big emotions and epic feelings. No, instead they are just super real, and that's what makes people feel like, yeah, I get that, because that's a real thing that real humans would feel. So basically the fix is to dive deeper into the truth of the song, get to the core honesty of how something would really feel, the different emotions that you would feel, the different things that you might actually do in that scenario. Try to be honest rather than try to be manipulative. So a great way to make your lyrics less overwrought is simply to, again, aim at the right target. Aim at being more radically honest rather than trying to be emotional. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, something else you will likely find helpful is my free 6-step lyric writing checklist. It breaks down lyric writing into 6 distinct steps, which makes lyric writing way easier than just asking ourselves to sit down and improvise brilliant poetry, which is almost impossible, or at least it's not something that we can do over and over and over again. Usually it's going to result in some pretty lackluster lyrics and a very unenjoyable lyric writing process. But if we break up lyric writing into a series of much simpler baby steps, that is a great way to get better results with our lyrics, because we're not trying to bite off more than we can chew all in one step. We're breaking it up into smaller steps that are just way easier to execute on and give us more clarity clarity on what exactly we should be doing. So be sure to check that out, songwritertheory.com/lyric checklist. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to you in the next one.